more.
Liz.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me see.
Oh, you did not get this. I received an email from Barbara Jo Navarro that the link, she's saying that the link for the public comments isn't working.
For public comments? Oh, for her to register? I'll send it directly to her. You want to forward it to me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and I'll send her the agenda. It's not working. That's so strange. Let's see. I have Miss Barbara Jo's email, I believe.
I just forwarded her
okay.
email to you. It's worked every other time, so that's kind of weird. Maybe it was.
Pop out, attach.
Should we get started?
Oh, yes, of course, we can get started. I got sidetracked by the inquiry from public. So, yeah. Great. You're good to go, Liz?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm going to send it over to right now.
Okay. And are the applicants will they join us or they? Oh.
Mr. Michael Burke is on.
Okay. I have my screen minimized, so I didn't see them. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started then. Good morning, everyone. I'm calling to order the administrative hearing of May 13th, 2021. My name is Ned Thomas. I serve as the planning director for the city of Milpitas, and I will be the hearing officer for today's virtual hearing. We'll begin today's hearing with a public forum. Any member of the online audience who wishes to provide live verbal comments during the meeting must first register to join the meeting via the web link that is provided on the meeting agenda. The meeting agenda is posted on the city's website at www.ci.milpitas.ca.gov. The agenda includes step-by-step instructions on how to register and then how to use Zoom meeting tools on your computer or mobile phone. To indicate that you want to make a comment, please use the chat feature for technical assistance only. All speakers will be allowed up to 1 minute to speak on any item. Each person shall be limited to 1 comment per agenda item and 1 comment for non-agenda items. No response is required from city officials or city staff on any item not on the agenda. So, hearing secretary, are there any registered participants in the online queue for general comments?
Good morning, Ned. We do not have any community members in the queue to speak for public forum.
Okay, and that's the case, then we will move to the public hearing portion of the agenda. We have 2 items on our agenda today. One is a master sign program for the Center Point project down on in the task or the metro area on Montague Express at the corner of Montague Expressway and Great Mall Parkway. The other item is modifications, renovation and expansion of a single family home at 445 Roswell Drive. We'll do the sign program first. Now for each of these items, the hearing procedure and order of input will be as follows. I will identify the project as described on the agenda. Staff will then give a brief staff report. The applicant or their representative will then have up to 5 minutes to speak and should identify themselves by stating their name for the record. If you do not wish to speak or don't have any additional comments after the staff presentation, then you may waive your time. After the applicant has spoken, any member of the public who wishes to speak on the item may provide comments up to 1 minute per speaker, either for or against the project. As previously explained, any member of the online audience who wishes to provide verbal comments live during today's hearing must first register to join the Zoom meeting. And again, to register, please follow the instructions provided on today's agenda. Following the comments from the public, the applicant may respond to those comments or make any additional remarks for up to 5 minutes. I will then close the public hearing and render a decision. I may have a few questions for staff in between. So we'll start with our first item. Again, this is a site development permit to establish a master sign program, identifying the location, type, size, materials, lighting, and other requirements for permanent signage within Centerpoint, which is a 9.84 acre mixed-use development located at Great Mall Parkway and Montague Expressway. It is located within the Transit Area Specific Plan, also known as the Metro Plan Planning Area. Staff, we have our senior planner, Michael Fasati, here to give the staff report. He will also discuss how we addressed environmental review for this project under the California Environmental Quality Act. I also wanted to mention at the top, I don't often do this, but I thought for members of the public, anyone who's listening, we have these zoning administrator hearings in accordance with the provisions in the Milpitas zoning ordinance. Typically, development items will go to the Planning Commission or the City Council, but last year a change was made to the zoning ordinance so that items of relatively minor impact to the community could come to this type of a zoning administrator hearing. And this was done to streamline the process and to make these types of projects easier to move through the review and approval process at the city. After about a year of doing administrative hearings, it seems to be working quite well. And it gives, for those projects that kind of fall in between a major project with major impacts to the community and then those that are approved at the staff level over the counter, this gives an opportunity for the public to comment on projects that kind of fall into the middle range. So that's why we're here this morning. And without further ado, I'll turn the time over to Michael Fasati for the staff report on the Master Sign Program.
Good morning, Director Thomas, fellow staff and members of the public. I'll be presenting a site development permit application for the property at 1500-1646 Centerpoint Drive. The project is called Centerpoint Master Sign Program. Next slide, please. On May 3rd, 2016, the City of Milpitas approved Resolution 8537, authorizing the development of Centerpoint, which consists of 2 mixed-use buildings housing 694 dwelling units and 36,500 square feet of commercial space located at 1500-1646 Centerpoint Drive. The developer is Summerhill Apartment Communities. Summerhill started construction of Phase 1 in 2018 and have plans on wrapping up that construction by the summer of 2021. Summerhill contracted Scott AG to develop a master sign program for both phases of the development. The image you have before you is a rendering of what Phase 2 will look like at the intersection of Great Mall Parkway and Centerpoint Drive. Next slide, please. This is an aerial image of the site. It is located at the northwest corner of Montague Expressway and Great Mall Parkway, across the street from Stratford School, the VTA bus transfer station, and 650 East Capitol Apartments, operated by Lennar Multifamily Communities. Next slide, please. The city requires all mixed-use developments to have a master sign program. The Centerpoint Master Sign Program ensures that the consistent design of the signage for the residential, commercial, and retail development within the project. And it's broken down into 5 following types. There's wall signs, monument signs, wayfinding signs, retail signs, and some ancillary additional types of signs. I'd first like to discuss the wall signs. Next slide, please. The wall signs are going to be used for building identification. For example, in this rendering, the name of Eleanor is on the upper portion of the building, and this is an example of a wall sign. The master sign program will dictate the placement, construction, size, material, color, and lighting of the wall sign. Those are all standards the city has control over. Staff has compared the standards within the master sign program with the zoning code and has determined it's in compliance. Next slide, please. Monument signs are also building identification signs designated on prominent corners of the site. For instance, there are 3 locations identified to install the Centerpoint monument signs, 2 facing Montague Expressway and 1 facing Great Mall Parkway. The primary monument will include a white powder-coated aluminum fin structure in 2 different heights, installed on a 1-foot tall cement concrete base as shown above. The second monument signs will be a smaller version of the primary, and the main difference is, other than them being smaller, they will not have space for the retail signage that you see on the primary sign. The monument sign configuration has met the development standards of the city code. Next slide, please. The applicant has proposed 3 wayfinding signs, which will be constructed of the same white powder coated aluminum fins as proposed for the monument sign. These signs are up to 10 feet in height and work for both pedestrian and vehicular circulation. Next slide, please. Retail signs come in 3 formats: wall signs, as seen on the left, blade signs, as seen in the middle, and canopy signs, as seen on the right. Development standards such as placement orientation, projection lighting, and overhead clearance have been reviewed and are consistent with the zoning code standards. Next slide, please. Additional sign types include a retail entry wall sign and retail window graphics. You'll see in the staff report and project plans, there is only one retail suite that has the option of installing a retail entry wall sign. And as for the retail window graphics, the zoning code allows these types of signs as long as only 25% of the window glazing is covered by the sign. The master sign program identifies that and has the same regulation. Next slide, please. Staff has confirmed that the findings for the proposed site development permit can be made, which are discussed in the staff report. Next slide, please. Staff has also determined that the project can be exempt from CEQA per section 15182 and 15183, and that the project is pursuant per the specific plan and the community plan and zoning. Staff has also determined the project's consistent with the addendum to the TAS BIR, which was adopted by City Council in November 17, 2015, in that the zoning location for MXD3, which this project is located in, has always contemplated mixed-use development. And I stated in the beginning of the application or this presentation that all mixed-use development require master sign programs. Next slide, please. The project was noticed in the local paper and postcards were sent out. Staff did not receive any comments on the project. Next slide, please. Staff recommends opening and closing the public hearing and approving SD 20-0011 based on the findings demonstrated in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval. This concludes staff's summary of the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and we also have Scott AG staff available to answer any questions. That includes Michael Birch and Patty Bertoli. Thank you for your time. I think you're on mute, Detector Thomas.
Sorry, trying to use good Zoom etiquette, but then we always end up speaking when we're on mute. I was saying, Mr. Birch, or any of the other representatives for the project, do you have any additional comments that you would like to make at this time? You may be on mute as well. Let's see, who else do we have? We've got Michael Birch. Do you have any additional comments you'd like to make at this time?
I do.
Oh, okay.
One
great.
second.
Great.
I'm
And
not
welcome.
in the best. Can you hear me?
Yes, and welcome. We're
Great.
glad that you're
I'm not in the
here.
best location. I'm actually at another Summerhill project in a construction office, so I apologize for that. I just wanted to share. I wanted to thank Michael, who has been really helpful in putting this master sign program together. He's been very collaborative and cooperative in how we did this, and I really appreciate the guidance and leadership from Michael's side. We developed the sign program around having both of the residential buildings, which are distinct projects, become a village sort of concept with the retail, which is why we have the consistency of the signage around the project to carry both and not have a hodgepodge of different sort of very branded elements. We wanted to keep some consistency. We also felt very strongly about getting the retail traffic onto Gates Drive off of Centerpoint and into the parking garage. We have a very, very heavy program of graphics and wayfinding from within the garage to get retail customers back out to the street. We know that the success of that retail is critical. So we wanted to have just enough indication out at especially Great Mall Parkway and Centerpoint that the retail was really highlighted and the scale of the retail signage was adequate to really support a vibrant commercial district. So one quick comment on the design of the ground signage. We love this idea of these fins that are sort of a place to put the signs, but they're also very open back to the buildings and highlight the landscape design. And I think that if anyone has further questions, that would be great. And I again apologize for the background noise.
Not at all. We're glad to hear construction is ongoing. That means that work is being done. And it's a hazard of our virtual environment. It seems like people call into the meetings from all different kinds of places. Thank you for your additional comments. I'd now like to open the public hearing, and if there is anyone in the queue who would like to make a comment on this item.
Hi, zoning administrator Thomas. We have no community members in the queue to speak on this project.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll close the public hearing. Thank you again for the excellent presentations, very detailed. Appreciated that. I did want to point out we have a new general plan in the city. I was just looking really quickly. I forgot to do this last night, but for example, there's a section in our general plan. In addition to there's a couple of points that are made in the staff report on different policies related to land use that are tied to signage. And I just wanted to point out, we also have a community design element in our general plan. And this is for, again, for members of the public who may wonder how we are using our new general plan. Contains a lot more detail than the old one did. We're all still getting used to it. But for example, under community design, we have, and these are just a couple I pulled out. There are probably others, but there's one that talks about policy community development 4-2, incorporate identifiable and consistent design themes through architecture, landscaping, public realm improvements, historic references, and signage within special districts. That certainly applies here as we're talking about the special district around the transit area. There's another one, community development policy 8.4, I think applies develop wayfinding systems at local neighborhoods and district and citywide levels. So again, there may be others, but just a couple of examples of how our general plan is used to guide the decisions that we make in the city. Because the next thing I always do for these types of hearing items is, as Michael mentioned in his presentation, there are specific findings in the zoning ordinance that we look at in considering, and we have to make those findings. They're legal findings that we make in rendering a decision for approval on a project. So for example, for a site development permit like this one, first finding is that all elements of the sign, including design, lighting, scale, length, and materials are consistent with the intent of the general plan, the sign ordinance, and any applicable specific plan. As Michael outlined in his staff report and in the presentation today, the elements of the master sign program are consistent with the general plan and with the sign ordinance. And that is in regard to lighting, scale, location, materials, and so forth. So we meet that finding. The next finding for a sign permit, like this case is, or for a sign program, the design, scale, and materials of the sign harmonize with the architectural design and details of the building or site it serves. Last time I was in Milpitas, I drove around the site. This particular, I want to credit Summerhill. This particular project, I think, like several of the others, but this one in particular, to me, captures the essence of the vision of the transit area. It's a higher density, multifamily, mixed-use development, has a lot of excellent ground floor retail, and really the the signage is kind of the icing on the cake. It's one of those elements that creates a sense of place and it complements the building and helps tie everything together and kind of makes it gives it a little bit of some detail that gives it a little bit of visual interest. So I would agree with the comments that have been made in the staff report and in the presentation that the design, scale, and materials of the sign all contribute greatly to the project. They're very complementary of the building and to each other, and they enhance the architecture and certainly the variety of signs. I think Michael touched upon it was slide 6, 5 different types of signs: blade signs, wall signs, and several other types of signs that are all complementary to one another and to the building. So we easily make that finding, I believe. The next finding, the design and scale of the sign is appropriate to the distance from which the sign is normally viewed. Again, in the presentation today and in the site or in the project plans or the sign plans that you saw with the staff report, the signs are a variety of different scales where we have at the corner, we have even 2 different types of monument signs depending on their location relative to the building and the site. So again, this finding can be made. Michael also notes in the staff report in the finding that even the typeface height is allowed on the building identification signs and on the corners, as the size of the font and the type of the font changes depending on the location of the sign. So all of that goes to meeting this finding. And then there's several others here. The design and materials of the sign provide contrast between background and the letters. We saw that. Freestanding signs, the design, scale, and location dictates the design, location of the sign of the building dictates the use of the freestanding sign rather than the building mounted signs. I think that was shown in the report as well. Provisions of the sign program ensure consistency of design and style of all new signs. I touched upon that. The provisions of the sign program address compatibility of the design and style of any existing building signs on the building or the site. Of course, this is a new building, new construction, so we're not necessarily comparing old and new here. But again, I think that the variety of signs that are proposed and the ability of, the flexibility of the sign program and allowing different types of signs is actually a benefit. Sometimes you'll see a project that is built and particularly in older buildings and all the signs are exactly alike. They might have a little, obviously the wording is different and they might have a little bit of different font or color, but they'll all have the same box sign and it looks kind of monotonous. So I think having a little bit of variety, again, the vision of the task area is to have a very vibrant, interesting, pedestrian-oriented area, and certainly the sign program here, the flexibility of the sign program here will allow that to occur. And finally, there's a lot of findings for these signs. Finally, all new signs within sign program are in compliance with the design guidelines of this chapter. And again, Michael covered that in the idea here is to enhance the outward appearance of, I would say, the neighborhood and the community. And that is the entire intent of having this type of a sign program. So I apologize, that was a little bit longer than a normal explanation I give, but I think it's good to dip into some of the details on this type of a project. Clearly we meet all of the findings. And so I'm happy to be able to approve this sign program and look forward to the completion of both the Eleanor building and the adjacent building as construction. I think is it called Point? Right now it's named Point, but I don't know, maybe it's changed.
Through the chair and I give credit to Scott AG for their kind of forward thinking. There's no official name yet. No. So they just had to put something in there. But we did we worked together to kind of figure out the parameters of whatever it will be. It'll be consistent with the Eleanor portion as well as the retail signage.
Yeah, and just so you're all aware, I like the details of things. My favorite slide was slide 6, and the star, instead of Starbucks, I thought, well, what is that picture? That was Star Ducks. There's a little picture of a duck. So very, very, very clever way to show what the sign might look like. Anyway, I'm happy to approve this project. Look forward to the completion of the overall project and as we look ahead in the next several months. So thank you again. And this project is approved.
Thank you, team.
We will now move on to our second item today, which major modifications to a single family home at 445 Roswell Drive. We have our assistant planner, Avery Stark, here to present the staff report. Again, this is a minor site development permit to allow major modifications to an existing single family home. The modifications include remodeling and expanding the first floor and adding a new second story loft, which will be used as an office. The total new floor area is 1,842 square feet. And again, it's located at 445 Roswell Drive in the R1, I'm going to say R16 zoning district. So Mr. Stark, if you could present the staff report.
Good morning, zoning administrator, staff, and members of the public. My name again is Avery Stark, and I'm an assistant planner with the city of Milpitas. The item in front of you is a minor site development permit to allow major modifications to an existing single family home located at 445 Roswell Drive. Next. As the zoning administrator explained and discussed, the applicant is requesting a minor site development permit to allow major modifications to an existing 1,610 square foot single family home, which includes the remodel and expansion of the first floor by 825 square feet and an additional 274 square foot second story loft, bringing the new total floor area to 1,842 square feet on a roughly 0.142 acre property. Such a major modification is subject to the review by the zoning administrator. Next. The subject site is zoned R16 single family residential and is surrounded by other R16 single family residents on all sides. Next. This map shows the general location of the site in regards to the neighborhood, and the red line indicates the property boundary. As you can see, it is surrounded again by single family residential homes on all sides. Next. Here's the proposed floor plan and site plan for the project. Staff has confirmed its consistency with the applicable development standards for a single family R16 zoning district, and that Milpitas Municipal Code continues to outline landscape requirements for the front yard coverage and rear yard lot coverage, which this proposed remodel complies with. After the modification, the home will be a total of 1,842 square feet with 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a living room, kitchen, and a dining room. And to note that the proposed second story loft is considered the 4th bedroom under the Planning Municipal Code definition, and at a top ridge height of 19 feet and 10 inches. Next. All exterior materials and finishes blend somewhat harmoniously with the surrounding residents and the general design character of the neighborhood. Most of the homes within this neighborhood are 1- and 2-story ranch style homes, and the proposed single family residence will be completed with smooth Kelly Moore acoustic white stucco wall finishings, Kelly Moore black oak soffit fascia, trim, garage door, and entry door color. The facade will be further accented by horizontal cedar siding as depicted as letter G and on the elevation you see in front of you. The owner has shared the printout of these plans, elevations, and materials for the proposed renovation with their adjacent neighbors, those across the street and to the east along North Roswell Court. They demonstrate their support in by signing a letter that was addressed to the planning department, and staff has confirmed the names, addresses, and owners or residents of the listed properties is accurate. Next. Staff has confirmed that the project meets the findings associated with the minor site development permit, and those findings have been addressed in detail in the memorandum. The proposed major modifications to an existing single-family home recognizes and respects the nature of the neighborhood and site development patterns, materials used, and the expectations of those who will see and use the home. The exterior materials finishes blend somewhat harmoniously with the surrounding residents, the general design and character of the neighborhood. Again, most of the homes within this neighborhood are 1 or 2 story traditional ranch homes, and the proposed single family residence will be 1.5 stories, again with the acoustic white stucco, black oak trim, door and garage colors with the horizontal cedar siding on the exterior walls. And the proposed major modifications to the existing single family home will not interfere with the privacy, quiet enjoyment, or view of the surrounding properties, as the height of the new 1.5 story loft will not obstruct the views of any surrounding homes. And as the project is located within the valley floor, no scenic routes or vistas will be obstructed. Next. Staff recommends that the zoning administrator approve P-MS 21005 to allow the major modifications to an existing single family home, including the remodel of an expansion of the first floor, the addition of a new 2nd story loft for a total of a new floor area of 1,842 square feet, and the R16 single family residential zoning district, subject to the findings set forth in the report and the attached conditions of approval. This concludes staff summary of the project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, zoning administrator.
Great, thank you, Mr. Stark. I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you for your presentation, very thorough. I see that we have the property owners here, Mr. and Mrs. Casas. Is that, I probably will not pronounce it, Casas or Casas. Welcome, we're glad that you're here this morning. And if you have any additional comments you'd like to make at this time.
Not necessarily. We're just really excited to get this project moving. The community, our neighborhood is really excited. Pretty much on a weekly basis, we're asked what's going on, when are we going to see the remodel start, and we just give them an update. But yeah, everybody's really excited about this.
Well, congratulations. It's a very dramatic change, but it's certainly, we see a lot lately. We've been seeing a lot of home remodels and expansions, and as they go, this one has done quite well. I'm sure that your neighbors will be very excited to watch the progress, and I'm sure you will enjoy the expanded space. This is a public hearing item, so we'll, one of the reasons.
Not a public hearing item. Minor site development permit does not require a public hearing.
Oh, okay. We'll not do it an official.
No, not an official public hearing.
I think it was listed. Well, it was listed as a hearing item.
Oh.
Anyway, maybe it was. Well, it doesn't matter. I will ask though, if is there anyone in the queue to make a comment on this item?
Zoning Administrator Thomas, there is no one in the queue for public comment.
Great, thank you. One of the things that I noticed in Avery's presentation is that you really had, the property owner had done extra work in going out and speaking with their neighbors, and even having signed petition, if you will, or comments from the neighbors that they're all in support of the project. As I mentioned earlier, these types of administrative hearings were set up by the city for exactly for this type of an item. It would be a little bit onerous for you to have to go to a full hearing with the Planning Commission. So rather than having that, and we just have a little bit more of an informal discussion or hearing at this level of zoning administrator. It keeps things a little more simple, a little more cost effective, and it's also much more streamlined process. It's just a little bit easier to get through. I think Avery, Mr. Stark, just in center, went over the findings very well. I'll just touch upon them really quickly. That this project, as he mentioned, meets all of the development standards in the zoning ordinance. We say development standards, we're talking about things like the side, front, rear setbacks, the height of the building, and the parking, and he's reviewed all of that, and it meets all of those standards. In addition, we look at the design and the compatibility with the neighborhood. These are not such hard and fast rules as an actual regulation. It's what we're looking at, materials and finishes, and I kind of think of it as this sore thumb rule. We would not want to see one of the in an existing neighborhood in particular, a remodel or an enlargement that would detract from the neighborhood or stick out like a sore thumb is the reason I call it. And this one certainly does not do that. It's very compatible with the neighborhood. Even adding the second story office It's designed very well in that and the third finding has to do with finding, the third finding has to do with privacy, quiet, and enjoyment, and not blocking any views. And again, this particular project is designed very well in that it incorporates the addition into the existing building. And as I read the plans, it appears that the new window on the second floor actually faces the front, and so it doesn't create any issues with privacy on the adjacent or the rear neighbors that we have seen in some of our other projects that have come forward. So very nicely done. You can compliment your architect. They did a nice job on the on the project. And again, this project meets all of the findings, so I'm able to approve the project. And we wish you very well in getting started. If you haven't done so already, of course, your next step is to work with the city's building department and getting a building permit, and they'll get you on your way. So we look forward to seeing the progress being made on your property as well. Thank you again for being with us today.
Thank you, team.
So with that, let me move things down here a little bit. So with that, those are our two public hearing items this morning. We will next go to close the close the meeting. There's some legal language that we give at the end of each meeting. Any person aggrieved by any decision of any board, commission, or department head at the City of Milpitas may appeal the decision to the City Council by filing written notice of the appeal with the City Clerk within 12 calendar days of the date of said decision and paying the required fee. The time limit shall be strictly enforced. With that, this concludes the administrative hearing for May 13th, 2021. Again, we thank everyone for their participation in this morning's hearing and look forward to these new projects moving forward. Thank you very much.